do a call to order. And go right to B, the discussion. Policy 005.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Oh,
go ahead,
thank you.
Elizabeth.
There just appears to be an oversight that happened many years ago. And again, just changing a noun from ex officio to ad hoc will maintain the consistency of our policy of 3 committee members per board, I'm sorry, 3 board members per committee. And it's just a simple cut, paste, and rewrite, one word.
I don't believe that that is the case, because just changing that changes the complete meaning. We've always had that the president has the right to sit in on and is an ex officio member of each of the committees. So why do you think, I understand what you mean by saying no more than 3. But why do you think that was a mistake?
Well, I think it was an oversight, giving the, now the president, you know, we all know Robert's rules, president, if there's a tie at a meeting for something that needs to be voted on, the board president, you know, his vote or her vote, excuse me, the president's vote would distinguish the even votes with having the odd vote, which then the motion could move one way or another. But for committees in the board policy, I'm sorry, the board president may still come to any committee meeting, but they won't have a vote. That's the difference between ex officio is right now the board president has a vote, which means 4 committee members. If the board president is ad hoc, they can still attend any meeting. They just don't have a vote. That's all. Just like when we discussed with Mr. Coe months and months and months ago, that he was adamant. So both of you seemed very adamant that we should only have 3 committee members per committee.
I kind of, Go ahead, Tracy.
I just think we need to discuss that with the whole board, because as of now, I don't believe our president does come in typically and in the past either and have any say. I mean, we don't vote within the committees. It's just pretty much guiding the administration on what we want done or bringing things forward to the full board. So, and I don't know, I'm still not sure about it.
The only thing, when I looked into this the other day, and I talked to some other people about it, and they said your committees are set up with 3, kind of so you don't have a tie situation. And if somebody can come in and throw their vote in, it could create a tie situation. And every government entity I've ever sat on, the president didn't vote. He was the tiebreaker if there was a tie. Kind of like on our board here, we have 9 members. If 4 vote for this and 4 are against it, then he's a tiebreaker. So I can see what Elizabeth is saying, and I asked some other people about it also, and they said the idea of that is so that nobody can come in and create a tie, because then who breaks it?
A double vote?
You can't have a double vote.
Yeah, I don't think the intention is for him to come in, for any president to come in and create a tie. I think it's understood, and it probably does need to be specified, that the 3 official committee members are the ones who are able to move anything within the committee. So you're right, it probably does need specified. But ex officio just means that by his appointment as president, he does have a right to sit in on the committees.
Well, yeah, he could sit in on it, but should he vote on it?
Yeah,
That's the whole thing.
That's the official definition. Ex officio.
Right.
If you sit on a board or a committee, and if you're ex officio, please just Google Webster's or something, please, folks.
I looked it up in Robert.
Already did, Elizabeth.
Right.
We
ex
understand what it
officio,
means.
Okay, means you have a vote. Ad hoc means you can attend the meeting, but you do not have a vote.
Is it
Right.
a may or is it a shall?
May.
So it doesn't require that the board president votes. It provides for an opportunity for the board president to vote.
Well, he exercised that privilege at the beginning of the facilities committee meeting. And, you know, not to point any fingers, and I'm not, I'm just saying has been exercised. And I'm not, no ill will towards the president. This is not, this is being objective, is that it could be abused. And this is just a safeguard that it's not abused
Right.
in now or 5 years down the road, you know?
Did he use it because there was a tie? Was there a committee member missing and was there a tie?
Yes, we all know that. And
Okay, so
it would have
that's
been-
the whole reason.
Yes, what happened was, Tom Cannon, even though he's on the facilities committee, he has a lot of conflicts and he couldn't attend. So we did do a vote and it was exercised at that time when, quite honestly, you know, was it critical that that vote happened that particular day with Tom absent? It wasn't critical, but it did occur. And that's when this whole situation started, that it could be used to someone's advantage if they so choose. And that's not what we want, right? We just,
No,
want-
we just said at the beginning of this whole conversation that the president has the right to be a tiebreaker.
yes, but it doesn't say that here. Right now, it states that the president can vote for anything on any committee
Well, then,
as a full committee member.
well, we can certainly look at that to look at and look at other districts and see what PSBA proposes.
A simple change from ad hoc would solve the entire situation because he would still, as the board president, be able to do a tie-breaking vote or keep it as ex officio with the understanding that the board president only votes under a tie.
I
Okay.
did look at some other school districts in the state and a lot of them do say ad hoc.
That's
He
standard practice.
still has a
that's what I know.
tiebreaker vote
Mhm.
Mhm.
and he can still come to a meeting and give thoughts and opinions and everything else. But it kind of, from what I got, just kept us from getting in the situation where a tie can be created.
And I also asked,
So,
thank you, I'm sorry, Chair, may I speak? I'm so sorry. I
yeah, go ahead,
interrupted.
Elizabeth.
And I hate to even say this because this is incredibly rude of me to say. But let's say hypothetically, the majority of the school board did not like the president. And the president started doing that, voting at committee member meetings. Would our opinions be the same? And I'm not asking for anyone to answer, just to reflect for a moment. But that is not the reason why I brought this to the attention of the school board. That's just a little side note that does not need further discussion. I appreciate it.
Well, we can
So-
certainly look at it and see what other districts do and see what we can do within the committee to bring to the full board then.
So what's the recommendation then? I'm sorry.
I would say at this point, and it's up to all of us together. Let's do a little ground research on this. And, I know what I've found and I know I've found it going both ways. And let's bring it up at the next meeting and, have a chat about it,
The next policy committee or?
the next policy committee. Everybody on board with that? Tracy, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's great.
So who would like to look at PSBA's recommendation?
I think we all could, we can all
Yeah.
dig into it.
Well, I mean, would you want someone just to send one email to PSBA for their question, what their recommendation is and what, what's other school districts do? Or do you want us all to individually contact PSBA and ask the
Well,
similar?
I don't think we all need to beat up PSBA, but if you want to send an email to them, I'd be totally on board with that.
You all right, Tracy, with that? And of course, I'll share the response with everybody.
And then,
As long as you copy all of us in on that email.
yeah,
Of
and then the
course.
rest of us we can kind of do a little research on our own too.
Okay,
Good with that, Tracy?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, how about, well, never mind. So let's do that and put it on the agenda for next month, and we'll all have our research put together. Everybody good with that?
yes, thank you so much.
All right.
Getting there.
Next thing, concussion management and the sudden cardiac arrest. I know Bill wanted to, or I should say Dr. Baldino wanted to have some input on this. And I'm all for it. So Dr. Bill, you're on the,
Well, okay. Which one do you want to talk about first?
let's do the concussion management
All right.
first.
Um,
You want to look at my computer? You got it.
I got it here.
Mr. Baldino, would you please tell us your experience with this? So we all have a base, what your background is.
I'm a retired thoracic surgeon,
Thank
which
you.
means that in my days, before you were a thoracic surgeon, you had to be a fully qualified general surgeon. General surgery, well, I'll give you the tongue-in-cheek definitions. Care of the skin and the contents thereof. And the general surgeon is a medical, as an internist, it finishes their training. We do more than cut, there's more to it than cutting and sewing. Did a lot of trauma. When I was chief resident in general surgery, I did 70 trauma cases myself. So I've seen a few people that have been mistreated. Well, that's a bad word. Beaten up. Okay. That's my experience. And while I was a general surgery resident, they put a policy in where every general surgery resident in the country took an examination so that you could compare across programs and all that business. I took it 3 times. I averaged the 92nd percentile and was as high as the 96th. So I feel that I know a little bit about what I'm
Okay.
talking about.
Thank you.
You know,
Appreciate it.
yeah.
As a person that has been through all this, I totally trust what he's saying. My brother's a trauma surgeon. I was a paramedic for 42 years. So I'm up on this also.
Great. Thank you.
It's just, I have some problems with some of the definitions of appropriate medical professional. I think it should be limited to, for on the field, I think it should be limited. Well, I think it's okay if you extend it beyond physicians. But for clearing an individual to participate again, I think it should be not even a general physician. I think that it should be a neurologist or a neurosurgeon that sees the patient and sends them back.
So which part of the definition? I'm so sorry.
I see what it is it says under penalties, a coach or medical professional found in violation. We already cleared that. So essentially what I'm getting is you're saying that if at a football game, one of the kids gets his head brung really hard, he's pulled out for the rest of the game until he's cleared by a professional, right?
Well, yeah, I would agree with that, but I'm up in the definitions part, where it
Okay.
says, in the third, under appropriate medical professional, Well, the second and third, it's just a licensed psychologist, neurophysiologically trained. I mean, that may be fine for diagnosing a concussion, but for evaluating the recovery to return to activity, I think that should be a physician that specializes in neurology or neurosurgery.
Where it says a licensed physician who is trained in the evaluation and management of concussions,
Well, that could be somebody like me or your brother.
right?
This is for, I mean, and again, as I say, it's different in my opinion, it's different for saying you've got a concussion, you can't play, and saying, all right, you're okay to go back in and start mixing it up.
Okay,
It's a lot of judgment involved. There are, except in the severest forms of concussion, there are no imaging studies that I mean, and again, unfortunately, I admit it, I've been out of the game for a while. I don't have access to the good literature. I tried doing some research online. I get the same stuff that the general public gets, which is frankly piss poor. It's really not very helpful, but I checked my textbooks. Admittedly, there are a couple of editions old now, but they both said the same thing, that an MRI was available when these textbooks were written, and they said that imaging isn't very helpful. So there's a lot of judgment in your physical examination. That's what I'm concerned about.
down under line number 3, it says a licensed psychologist, neuropsychologically trained in the evaluation management of concussion, who has postdoctoral training in neuropsychology and specific training in the evaluation and management of concussions. Does that not cover what you're talking about?
I don't know what they're capable of, and I would err on the side of caution. I know what a
Okay.
neurosurgeon's used to taking care of, and I know what a neurologist is used to seeing.
Okay,
So,
what is it that you would like to see changed?
well, let's go down. I think it's down in the return to play.
Okay,
Okay, it's the same thing. It says appropriate medical professional. So that's covered under those definitions above. And
right.
Let's put it this way. I mean, again, I saw a lot of people that I knew when something was wrong upstairs initially. And then I called the neurologist or the neurosurgeon. I would not clear a kid to go back except for the mildest of concussions. A kid, by definition, a kid that gets his bell rung, gets in, he stands up, it's like, where am I for a second? And then he's fine. That's a concussion, period. Okay. I'm amused when you watch the football games on TV, whether they go into, then they take him into, I don't know what they're doing. If he thinks he's playing on Thursday afternoon, it's a concussion. That's simple,
Okay, it says here that the coach will not or shall not return a student to participation until the student is evaluated and cleared for return to participation in writing by an appropriate medical professional.
And by the definitions above, it's who's going to define, how do you define who's been trained in the evaluation of concussions? Again, you can.
Well, they have to
you
have.
can tell,
You have
a
to have
general
the physician trained in the evaluation and management of concussions.
Yeah. So that's a broad spectrum.
It is.
I'd want to.
There's a specific requirement for the training for evaluation of concussion. And it's really specific, that's set by the state.
Right.
That in order to qualify to be an appropriate medical professional, you have to go through a really specific training on concussion management. And they have to have written proof of completing that, that training. So I don't know if that answers your question. You
Well-
said, what are the, how do we know that they've been trained? Well, they have to have proof that they have that training.
Well, it's interesting if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the legislation, it return to play, it's basically the governing body of a school entity may designate a specific person or persons who must be appropriate medical professionals to provide written clearance for return to participation. In order to help determine whether a student is ready to return to participate, an appropriate medical professional may consult any other licensed or certified medical professionals. So it appears that the legislation is throwing it back in our lap. What do we deem, I mean, if I'm articulating this and understanding this correctly, it's sort of throwing it back in our ballpark. Is like, what do you think is the best type of evaluation? So,
To some extent, I see what you're saying. But the training of evaluation and management of concussion, again, is a really specific set of training
mhm.
that all the folks that are in that definitions are required to complete in order to be considered someone who's trained in evaluation management of concussion. So
Yeah.
that licensing is really specific.
And it says here they have to provide a written clearance before it can return to participation too. So that would be on whoever's clearing them.
And if you look too, it also tells you that the board may designate a specific appropriate medical professional
Mhm.
to provide the written.
And so
So
it's
you
back in our
can-
lap. So even though they're certified, which certification, which degree, which title does the board want? They're all going to be certified. It's just a matter of to what degree does the board want the level to go? And I'll be honest with you, I don't have the expertise. I'm not a professional on concussions. So I wish I could offer more. I just, with his background though, I'm sort of deferring right now to this, what he's stated. I don't,
We have our policy, which says all that. Is there an AR with this through the athletic department? Is there a specific AR that does specify this a little bit more?
that's an excellent question, Tracy. We've never talked about that before.
Give me just a moment.
Dr. Baldino, how would you like to see it written?
My biggest concern is that I would like to see that that they have to be cleared by a specialist in neurological injuries, a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. That's right.
Okay.
The guy named Bill Dalton Nolan years ago wrote a wonderful book called The Making of a Surgeon. It was about his training program. I don't remember much about it. I read it decades ago, but I do remember the last paragraph in the book. He said something that was poignant. He said, there are no big steps in the making of a surgeon, just thousands of small steps. And it's the same way with this. You can send somebody to a weekend course that says, okay, we're going to make you a concussion expert. And they get their certificate and all that. And I've taken courses like that, and I knew they were ridiculous, but you had to do them to satisfy the paperwork. Okay. What you really learn from is seeing hundreds upon hundreds of patients and pick up on the subtle stuff. And, now this is going to put an onus on us also, because if we do this, if you expect the kids to be able to get back into the game, we're going to have to work out a deal with somebody, to make sure they get in and say, when we call you, you got to get the kid in within the week. Because right now you try to get an appointment with a neurologist, it's going to be 3 months. So just bringing that up as a practical thing. I mean, ideally, I'd like it seen by a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. And there just aren't a lot of them around, but
So essentially, we could be ending a kid's playing for the season until we could get one.
well,
Yep.
yeah, I suppose we could.
I would suggest looking at the current, see if there's any current guidelines within the athletic ARs or administrative ARs. Because, I mean, concussions are not all exactly serious. I mean, but they obviously do need looked at immediately before we return a kid to play. But I mean, if they could, if there's a grading scale with the severity of the concussion and then who's allowed to clear from there. Yeah, because you're right. I was exactly thinking, how's a kid get into a neurologist to get cleared with today's schedules? That's a
Right,
problem.
we sure can't afford to have one standing by watching the game either.
Well, but you don't need one for
Right.
watching the game. That's the point I'm trying to make is, you know, you can tell very easily that they had a concussion. The hard part is deciding whether or not it's relatively safe for them to return to activity. And I disagree, Tracy, every concussion is serious because the brain becomes more prone to injury until it is resolved, the minor.
Okay.
So if you put them back this is the problem with the stuff going on, everybody's worried about today is what's it called? I can't remember.
I know what you're,
You know,
I know.
I'm
The
sorry, I'm having a senior moment.
That's
you
okay.
know,
The
But,
CTE.
you know,
CTE,
yeah,
yeah,
CTE, that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
It's getting hit again
Mhm.
while you've got that, you know, and
Compounds makes
just, and I mean, and it used to happen all the time. John Madden used to be great about telling the stories about it, you know, it just, you know, guys, you know, no matter how many fingers you you always say two because they always put up two fingers, you know, it's just, you know.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah, so if I may, there is an administrative regulation with this policy, and the
Okay.
return to play and return to classroom refers back to after written medical clearance is given by an appropriate medical professional. So AR set just refers back to whatever the appropriate medical professional is. So as it states in the policy itself, it's the board can designate a specific person or persons. And so if we say that the appropriate medical personnel is, you decide whatever that is, we put that in the policy, and that becomes the requirement.
Right.
Do we still have a good working relationship with UPMC? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
Okay, because we used to, so I don't know where that stands today, but whatever major medical carrier that we have a good relationship with, I don't want to, drag this out, but what if they gave their opinion, a recommendation on, because I'm sure, they're like the front line there. But me personally, I go on this right now after hearing what Bill has said and looking into it a little bit online as a layman. I always gonna lean more towards the conservative side because in the big picture, the students' athletic experience right now is just a small percentage of their entire life. Now, I'm not saying it's not important.
Right.
But if there's an opportunity for us to have a policy that's gonna help them stay healthier in the long run by doing X, Y, and Z, I just hope we check that right box.
We have the ability to have a neurologist look at the policy.
Well, we could certainly reach out and if I understand correctly, the main question is appropriate medical personnel.
That's what I'm concerned about. Yeah.
So why don't we do this then? We'll take care of having that section looked at by
No.
our local.
Well, I see a neurologist. I have a tremor. Okay. Yeah, today it's bad. That's all involuntary. I'm not doing that on purpose. Okay. I go out to State College because UPMC didn't have one. And just a word about how UPMC operates. They jerked me around for about 6 weeks before I found out that they didn't have one. They were kind of wanting me to just wait around until they found one for the year. I didn't like, but I see a man named Roy. I think his first name is Emil Roy, something like that. In state college, in state college.
Is he affiliated with any hospital or large?
He's affiliated with Nittany Valley.
Okay,
yeah.
well, there.
Who
I
who
don't,
currently has?
I
the
don't know if
medical
UPMC
certificates
has
for
it.
this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, is it just a coach or a trainer?
No, so if you look at the licensed medical professional, it's not coaches.
Okay,
No,
all
they're,
right.
they're trained, they do concussion training, but that's
Right.
only to observe.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah, they're
making
not,
the diagnosis is
Yeah.
simple.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Saying, all right, I think the injury has resolved sufficiently that it's safe. You're not at increased risk for going back in.
Right.
That's where it gets a little
Yeah,
dicey.
Right,
Coaches-
and that's,
coaches
I
don't
think
make
why
that.
Yeah.
this policy is written as it is, that a coach can't make the determination to return to play.
Yeah, because
It
he
has to
could be
someone
under
that fits under
pressure to
the
get it.
definition under appropriate medical personnel.
Right, because coach could be saying, I want him to play. So I think we're all right on it. Let's talk with who we have that's certified and see what their thoughts are.
So we'll just table this?
Yeah,
Is that
we'll
what you
just
want?
table it for right now
Okay, good.
and then we can move on. Sudden cardiac arrest. Dr. Baldino, you wanted to talk about that?
Well, my phone is
Please,
not
here,
cooperating.
just-
May I look at your thing?
No, just use it.
Yeah.
There.
Um,
Here. Got a
Are
mouse.
we on this now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. I mean, the, you know, a student
What-
determined,
Which section are you on? So sorry.
removal from
Oh.
play.
Removal from play.
Symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest. Well, that's sort of a given. Essentially, you're saying they died. Okay, they have no heartbeat, no respirations. That's what sudden cardiac arrest is. So that's kind of, a slam dunk. And then any student known to have exhibited signs or symptoms of a sudden cardiac arrest prior to or following an athletic and shall be prevented from participating in athletic activities. And then return to play, evaluated and cleared for return to participation in writing by a licensed physician, certified registered nurse practitioner, or cardiologist. I'd cross out the first two of them, period.
I agree.
It's gotta be,
Yeah.
look, again, that player from Buffalo last year, look, it took them weeks to say he was okay. And I guarantee you, he was seeing high-priced people, he was, with the money they pay those guys, they don't send them to physician's assistants. The problem is, in his case, it was something that can happen, but isn't that common. If you apply the right amount of energy at the right spot at exactly the right time in the cardiac cycle, you can interrupt the rhythm and you can put the heart into ventricular fibrillation.
Otherwise.
It's not a high percentage bet. Okay, more likely is that I thought this from there, and I was wrong. But I thought that he had some sort of intrinsic, what we these days call, a lot of old heart attacks weren't heart attacks in the sense that they weren't coronary artery occlusions. They were what these days we call sudden cardiac death syndrome, inherent electrical instability in the heart.
All right, well,
And I can promise you that the lower level practitioners are not really good at that. And I mean, even a cardiologist, a good chance a cardiologist might kick him to a subspecialist in cardiology, to an electrophysiologist.
Well, then let's just make this easy.
Thank you.
No, it's good.
Let's just make this real easy and remove the section that says, under return to play, that licensed physician, certified registered nurse practitioner, make that just straight a cardiologist. It's the only one that can clear them to come back. Everybody,
That's what makes
Tracy, you
sense.
okay with that?
I'm great with that. My other question is, I don't know if it's in an AR. Do we have defibrillators available and trained people at all athletic events?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Thank
Okay.
you. I was gonna ask that too, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
yeah,
why
I-
don't we just scratch the licensed physician, certified registered nurse practitioner and push it right to the cardiologist?
I'm very good with that.
Okay,
Super.
And I mean, should there be, I mean, this is paperwork stuff. I mean, hopefully they're smart enough to, if a kid passes out on the field, I mean, does it need to be in the policy or in your administrative regulations or things that you check them for cardiac arrest? And if there is, you start cardiac resuscitation immediately and things. And I would avoid saying somebody certified in CPR because I'm not certified in CPR. Okay, my certification ran out years ago.
Mhm.
All right. You want to bet that I can do at least as good a job as most of the people walking around with certificates that are active? I've only resuscitated probably, 1,000 hearts.
well, I'm gonna say let's move this on for a first read and cross out them two.
Okay, I was
Yep.
gonna ask, I didn't know since it was on the first read
Right.
at the work session, do we need to put it back in the May work session now?
You have 24, right? I'm sorry, 20, there's 24 hours.
Certainly. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can we, so
And
we
just
could
so
put
we
it back
mention-
on the
Right.
voting meeting?
Yeah,
I think, I don't see any problem, as long as they're 24 and we mentioned.
yeah, we have 24 hours till our meeting, so.
And it's this committee's recommendation to the board to consider it as adopting the policy with the.
Edit.
With the
changes.
change, yeah.
Yeah, because that'll be the second read of the voting meeting. Okay,
Thank you, Patty.
sure, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to section C, KCSD policy, cyclical review, class size.
So this one is just a review of the policy. There were no changes from the previous.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I read through that and I even asked a couple teachers about it and they were okay with how it's worded.
Yeah, it's very,
Tracy, any ideas, thoughts?
I'm good.
Okay. Let's move on to policy 127.
Chris, are we gonna put that to first read then? in
Yes,
May?
let's move out to first read. I'm sorry,
That's
Patty.
okay, no, you're good.
Let's move on to policy 127, the assessment system.
Just revision of the pronouns. Other than that, there's no substantial change.
Okay,
thank you.
you leaving us?
We're not any fun, are we?
Uh, Nobody has
Your
any
nose got
questions
longer.
on
Sorry.
policy
Yep.
127? We good with moving it to first read?
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay. Policy 130, the homework,
No revisions. just
no
review.
revision.
I'm good.
Okay, let's move that to first read. Home education program,
That's a tricky one.
This one does have some revisions there in bold on the linked policy there.
right? I read through that last night and I was pretty okay with it. I have no issues to the wording changes and removing she/he and put it with they. I'm all right with that.
I'm good with all the ones on the home education.
Elizabeth,
Oh, absolutely. No, this.
okay, let's move that one to first read.
It's very good, very good.
Policy 137.2,
Oh, Part-
participation.
Point one, I'm sorry.
Oh, point one, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're right.
It's very similar, just extracurricular and co-curricular. The changes were very similar between the two.
Okay. There was one, and well, we won't get into it till the next time, but under the guidelines here, it has a line right there in the first paragraph that says, including as applicable, Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, the ROTC units. On the next two policies, that line was taken out. And it's all under the home ed, and I don't understand why it's good on this one, but not on the other two.
So is it considered an extracurricular or is it a co-curricular?
We have to get into it. On this one, Tracy, are you good with the way it is?
Yes, I'm fine.
Elizabeth?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
let's move on to the next one, 137.2. And you'll see what I'm talking
Mhm,
about.
mhm.
That line has been crossed out.
But it still has a link to the legislation to Cornell Law School, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
So the
Right.
reason we crossed that one out is because we don't have a JROTC program in our district right now. So the administrative discussion with that was, if we ever bring a JROTC, then we'll come to the board and say we need to adjust this policy. But right
Okay,
now, we don't have the program and there are no plans currently to bring one in.
but is it a problem just having that there and leaving it there for now?
You have to change the wording.
Yeah, that's just a couple of action verbs, I guess, right?
I don't,
When,
if it, right here, it says offered for credit. I don't see us, we've never had that program. I don't see us ever having that program. And if something like that were brought in, it would be extracurricular, which would be covered in the previous policy.
Okay. I just wanted to check because it was left in the first one, but crossed
Yeah,
out
because,
the next two.
I mean, it could always, it's an easier possibility for it to be an extracurricular than it would be co-curricular. So it is covered in one policy.
Okay,
well, one
So-
thing that is really interesting, not that this matters, but I was just glancing at what the link said. It just said, I didn't know this, that, not that this is just an FYI. Secretary of the Military Department concerned shall pay the institution amount equal to 1/2 of the amount to be paid to an instructor pursuant to the JROTC instructional pay scale for any period. I just found that it was nice to know that they actually would support monetarily if it so should happen in the future. That's all. Just an anomaly. That's it. Just a little FYI.
and then down at the bottom under delegation of responsibility. I'm sure this comes in under an AR somewhere that has the superintendent or a designee. That's all been crossed out. You good with that?
So that the above, it talks about posting information. The prioritization of enrollment in district curricular activities.
I think we still need the link though, at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's above at the end of transportation. It's the same link. It's to 24 PS 1327.
Sure, the number one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so the link is still there.
Okay. Is this the PSBA
So what-
recommendation to take that out?
No, so, I'm rereading it, trying to remember what the
Sure, I know, there's
discussion
a
was from a
thousand,
few weeks
go
ago.
ahead, take your time, please.
So this is looking at, one of the questions I had was, do we do cut sports? Do we have so many participants that we have to not allow everybody in? And that wasn't a concern. And so these two things that are lined out are whether or not I'm going to establish a solid number of, there can only be 44 people on the football team kind of thing. And if there's 44 people on the football team, we're only going to take X number that are homeschooled.
Okay,
So since we're not doing cut sports.
Well, what
I
if
thought it
we
was-
what if we find that we want to have tryouts? Then what would happen? Then we'd have to revisit this policy? Because I mean, at some point, we may, I'm not, I mean, the
Right.
district may look at, say, these numbers, maybe we should have tryouts.
And
So,
at that point, then I would go in and establish that.
That's why I'm wondering if like these are active in the state regulations and laws, and it's been in our policy, why don't we just leave them there?
This is a new policy.
Yeah, this is,
Okay,
oh, so this is from PSBA.
Yeah,
Yes.
PSBA gave you the options
Yep.
to use either one of those if you wanted or not.
Either one of the places to check the box
Mhm.
Right.
under
Correct.
delegation.
Right.
Well, personally, if it came from PSBA, I mean, not to undermine what, I understand what you're saying, Dr. Redmond, I really do. But not to undermine what you're saying, but if this came from PSBA and in the future, we may have tryouts, whether it's JV or whomever. It's just so the future board, future and superintendent, however it goes in the future. They have something there that there's already an establishment, and then if they want to change it at that point, or alter it or edit it, they have the ability, but at least the information's there. I mean, I personally, I like the idea that if there ever are tryouts, that there is, to get away from the friends and family program, I'm not saying this happens, but Coach B likes this kid better because that's his buddy's best friend type thing. This actually sets a standard, whether or not this is the right standard, academic achievement, demonstration of skills, because that's always sometimes comes up, not that we do it, not that we have tryouts right now. But I don't see any reason to get rid of it personally, unless it's causing an administrative hassle, error, more time.
Tracy, your thoughts?
I'm trying to read through it here and make sense of it all.
Okay,
I understand that, we have the option, PSBA gave us those options. If there's gonna be an administrative regulation for all of that anyway, if
Right.
needed. So, I mean, this is just the policy, so I'm okay if the administration doesn't feel that those two sections are needed. I'm okay with how it is, with how they have it here.
so this is my recommendation. I hear what you're saying. And it's the board policy, right? So the board can decide if they want me to put those in, we will, but this was just my recommendation.
well, it could go either way. So,
I'm not thinking about the here and now, I'm just thinking about the future.
right, and
So,
that's what
And
we
in
gotta
any-
look at.
If it gets to the point where we do need to do that and have tryouts and everything, then the administration can come back and say, hey, we're looking at this. Let's adjust the policy accordingly and go from there.
But if we leave it right, the way it is right now, it doesn't hurt anything. And then we wouldn't have
Well,
to worry about changing it later, right?
The first one says the superintendent or designee shall establish,
Right?
for prioritization. I just don't know if that might cause issues. If it's not needed right now because we don't hold tryouts and everybody participates, if we have that AR in there, is that going to cause issues for administration?
that's the hard part, Tracy, is the number one link. It is so extraordinarily long that we'd have to sit here, or we have to sit here, I guess, or before we vote on this, I guess. Because if that language is actually written in here somewhere, we have to make sure that we don't, and I'll be honest with you, I did not read every single word in this, the number one link to the law. So I don't know if that wording or some wording similar to it.
What about
has
if you
to stay in
change
there.
shall to can,
May, yeah, may, whatever. yeah.
can or may?
I'm just thinking if it's our current practice that we don't cut in sports, if that is our current practice, then I think that's what our current policies and administrative regulations should reflect. Not, I understand, looking into the future and all, but if that is what we do to keep it cut and dry and avoid any kind of confusion, I think our policies and AR should just reflect what we currently do, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you're saying yes or no, Tracy?
I'm
To cut-
saying
To cut all this out or leave it the way it is?
yes. No, cut that out. If that's the administration recommends that and it's not what we currently do, I say we take it out.
Elizabeth?
I don't want to hold anybody out, but I personally think that for the future board, for the future superintendent, if it's there, they won't be reinventing the wheel, like, oh, where do we put it? Where do we do this? It's already right there. I just think changing the superintendent as a may establish and, just change it to may, and that way, and same with the second one, programs may have an equal and then in the future, if someone wants to change it to shall, they can. But leaving it just as may keeps it in the document. But you don't have to,
You don't
administration
have
doesn't have to
it,
do
but you
anything.
can do it.
My issue, my only
Sure,
problem with
please.
that is where it says, based on the established number of allowable participants. We don't have an established number of allowable participants.
Okay,
That's
no, I
the
see.
only
what
thing
you-
that I think we make it.
And this is in sports.
Yeah, it's co-curricular.
Listen. That's academic. right?
Oh,
I think it,
co-curricular activities and academic courses.
So
yeah,
it's not,
curricular activities so, right, it's,
it's not sports.
It could be, is
It
it
could be, it
clubs?
could be bands, it could be
Mhm,
orchestra.
Mhm. You're
So
well
it's
put. You're absolutely right.
Whereas the extracurricular one, I think, has that.
Well, that's a good catch. This is the 4 credit courses,
Yeah, that's.
the courses that we, offer right now.
Right.
Because it is.
Yeah, how did we
Ah,
segue away
we
from
probably- yeah,
that?
well, 'cause you had 3 in a row that are very similar. They just
Right.
switched co-curricular from extracurricular to co-curricular. So these are academic in nature.
so
Well-
I'm reading the law that's associated, it's down in section 4F2(1).
Okay.
So it's about 2/3 of the way down on the document. So, yeah, F1, go down to F2, paragraph 1, it talks about that, and it says, the law says that students who are homeschooled can take courses with us starting this school year.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And if we leave the policy the way that I have recommended it, we can kind of stop there. Students who are homeschooled can take individual courses with us if they need to.
But you want, you
And
don't,
that's,
okay, go ahead.
But if we limit
that's,
it, go ahead,
I'm
Tracy.
sorry. So I'm just thinking, we don't want to limit that because that's bringing students into our school.
Okay, well, that's a different, I'm sorry, I was viewing it totally incorrect. Okay, so yes, sorry.
Because the sports one has everything that you.
That's
talked
what I
about.
was, that's where I
It
was,
does
I
have
was
all that stuff
focused
in it.
on the wrong thing.
Okay, then that's good to go.
Oof.
Everybody in
I was-
agreement?
Yeah, I was right there with you, Elizabeth. It's all good. We got it now.
All right, let's move that on, Patty, to
And let's-
first read.
Let's show this recording over and over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Policy 137.3, participation, career technical ed.
Yeah, essentially, it's very
same
similar
thing.
to the last one, saying that we're going to, follow the state law, basically, and allow students who are homeschooled to take our CTC courses.
Yes, I
Yep.
support that, absolutely.
Okay, and we're all good with all the changes in that.
No, it looks great.
Yep.
Okay,
I understand this one.
let's move this along. Patty, put her on the list, please. Policy 138, language instruction educational program for English learners.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
There's a lot of changes in here. I read through this twice this morning and once last night, and I'm good with the changes.
I'm good too.
Dr. Redmond?
That's, yeah, I think it's a good policy that specifies the work that we need to do with what is turning out to be a growing segment of our district population.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I absolutely do, but I'll be honest with you, I did not, I don't want to be, take up too much time, but I honestly don't understand it's been crossed out. It's been crossed out. On page 2, the second option that the board had, I don't really even understand where that, I mean, I know there's legislation attached to it, but I'm glad it's crossed out. But it's for non-public schools and they're kind of pushing it towards
Well, they
us.
kind of pushed that out, but at the top it said the board directs the LIEP to be evaluated.
Yeah.
So we're still making sure it's happening.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm great. This is good. Good.
Okay, I'm good with that. Can we move that one, Patty?
That's your decision.
Please.
We can.
The next one, the charter schools.
No
I
changes
didn't
there. just
see
a
any
review.
changes in that at all.
No changes, just a review.
Tracy, you okay with that?
Yep.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay, let's move that for first read. Then we'll go to policy 140, extracurricular participation by charter cyber students.
Only pronoun changes.
Okay,
It's good.
all right. Elizabeth?
Yes.
All right. Would you move that, please? Policy 142, migrant students.
Review only, no changes.
Okay,
I did have one quick question, and not to focus on this, but is it still the contemporary thing to say migrant students? Is that, I mean,
yeah, it is.
it is? Okay.
Because there's migrant students that come in and out of the country all the time.
So we call them migrant
It's a
students. Okay.
consistent thing.
I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Tracy, you okay with that?
Yep, I'm good.
Can you move that forward, Patty?
Mhm.
Policy 143, students for persistently dangerous schools.
No changes there.
Okay. Any comment, Tracy?
Nope, I'm good.
Elizabeth?
No, that's what they
Okay.
cut and dry.
Patty, please move that forward. Policy 144, standards for victims of violent crimes.
Only pronoun revisions.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Yep, easy
Tracy?
peasy.
I'm good.
Okay, let's move that one forward. Please. Policy 146, student services.
No proposed changes there.
Okay with that, Tracy?
Yep.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm kind of curious. I forgot, where are we with the 6 years, develop a written plan for implementing a comprehensive integrated K through 12 program, blah, 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 blah. Do we know what year we're at right now? Or if not, maybe we should kind of just be aware of it.
I'm not aware of where we are. on that.
I'm not aware of it.
Okay, well, we'll find out.
All right. Patty, please move that one up. Policy 146-1, trauma-informed approach.
No changes proposed on that one.
Right. I liked it the way I read it. Tracy?
Yep, I'm good.
All right,
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Thank you.
Okay,
Mhm.
Patty, please move that up. Next one is policy 150, comparability of services.
No proposed changes on that one.
Okay, Tracy,
I'm good.
Elizabeth,
Yep, absolutely.
okay, Patty. Policy 201, admission of students.
So this one, we would like to change. We noticed that in the, see, it's the last full paragraph on the first page, that if a parent wants to enroll their 4-year-old child going to be 5 in October, the way the policy read is that the parent would come directly to me. And we wanted to clarify that, that we would use the same procedure that we would use for testing and evaluation of the 4-year-old child to help provide the data for whether or not we would accept the younger child into the kindergarten program.
Instead of holding them up a year.
Well, we would, we want to figure out if it's appropriate to include that child. Typically, we say if your birthday is all the way until the end of August, you would enter into our, you turn 5 by the end of August, we bring you into the kindergarten program. The next part of the policy says if your birthday is in September, then you work with the principal and the psychologist and so forth, and work through a series of testing and evaluation to figure out if the child is academically, socially, and behaviorally ready for kindergarten.
Right.
The next part of the policy, the current one says, if your birthday is in October, go talk to the superintendent. Rather than saying all the stuff they have to do
Right.
in order to evaluate readiness academically, behaviorally, socially. So what we're doing is trying to correct that to say, yes, come talk to the superintendent, but you also need to do that evaluation.
Okay.
part.
Tracy, how do you feel about that?
I'm good.
Elizabeth?
No, that's good.
I'm good with it also, so let's move that forward, please. The next one, the PSBA revision, since we just got it laid in front of us here at the meeting, and Tracy, you're not here. I'm gonna ask that, either Patty or Tracy, can you email that out? And let's just put that off till the next meeting, and that way we all have time to dig into it.
Mhm.
And we'll bring that back up at the next meeting.
So I understand you had some troubles opening that, so we'll make sure that this is emailed to all of the committee members.
Right.
The proposed 903.
Okay? You all right with
Sounds
that,
good.
Elizabeth?
Yes, yeah.
Tracy?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's a new one. It's 2024.
Yeah, this is a new one to read. Okay, with that,
If I may?
Yes.
Before you adjourn, I've given hard copies of what I would like this committee to peruse and decide whether or not you would like to include some revision of this as a policy and AR for our district. So it deals specifically with the board superintendent relationship. It's a more specific version than what PSBA has.
right,
And of course, I'm not asking for you to make any sort of decisions or recommendations right now, but it's just the start of a conversation about how we might be more definitive about what that board superintendent relationship looks like.
okay.
And Tracy will get this to you via email as soon as we're done with the meeting here.
All right.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else? All right, let's call for,
I'm good.
thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
You too.